There are voices that entertain the world, and then there are voices that awaken the soul. Whitney Houston's was the latter, pure, timeless, and irreplaceable. From the moment Whitney Elizabeth Houston stepped into the world on August 9, 1963, in Newark, New Jersey, there was already something heavenly about her path. Her story begins not with fame or flashbulbs, but with a quiet, sacred truth. She was born into music. The child of gospel royalty, she grew up surrounded by the sound of worship, harmony, and spiritual expression. Her mother, Cissy Houston, was a celebrated gospel singer. Her cousins were Dionne Warwick and Dee Warwick, and Aretha Franklin. Yes, the Aretha Franklin was her godmother. Whitney was not just raised in music, she was raised by legends. In church pews and choir lofts, the young Whitney began, shaping her voice, singing with innocence yet power beyond her years. Those Sunday mornings were more than rituals. They were the birthplace of her gift. Family gatherings often turned into impromptu concerts, and Whitney, shy at first, slowly grew into her sound. As racial tensions and urban struggles shook Newark, the Houston household became a sanctuary of music, love, and resilience. Her parents worked tirelessly, her father, John Houston, in city administration, and her mother in performance and ministry, to provide stability for their children. Whitney, the middle child, carried both tenderness and strength within her, yet even as a child people sensed something extraordinary. Her voice, gentle as a whisper, powerful as a storm, held the rare ability to pull listeners into her world. She wasn't just singing notes, she was telling stories, expressing emotion with uncanny depth. By her early teens, she was already performing alongside her mother, absorbing professional discipline and the soul of gospel. But within her laughter, her innocence, and her early dreams, no one could have predicted the magnitude of the journey ahead. Whitney's early life was a mosaic of family warmth, church harmonies, quiet determination, and the early spark of destiny. Before the world knew her as the voice, before the awards, the spotlight, the triumphs and tragedies, she was simply Nippy, a sweet, bright-eyed girl whose voice made everyone stop and feel something. And that was just the beginning. Every legend has a moment when destiny knocks. Whitney's knock was not a whisper, but a thunder calling her toward greatness. Whitney's career beginnings were shaped not by chance, but by an undeniable force, her extraordinary voice. As a teenager, she began singing backup for her mother in New York nightclubs, learning firsthand the grit, discipline, and soul of professional performance. Audiences often paused mid-conversation when Whitney stepped up to the mic. There was a purity in her tone that felt almost unreal, smooth as velvet, soaring like a hymn, yet powerful enough to shake the room. By 15, she was recording demos. By 16, she was modeling, gracing magazine covers as one of the first African-American women to appear on 17. But no matter how far modeling tried to pull her, music kept calling her home. Producers, musicians, and executives who heard her instantly recognized something rare. The music industry was shifting, searching for new stars, and Whitney seemed like a gift heaven sent to fill that space. Everything changed the night Clive Davis heard her sing at the McKell's nightclub. One song in, he was captivated. 2 songs in, he saw the future. After the third, he signed her on the spot. Whitney was still just a girl from Newark, but her journey toward global stardom had officially begun. Her rise to fame was unlike anything the world had ever witnessed. When her debut album Whitney Houston was released in 1985, it didn't just climb the charts, it conquered them. Saving All My Love for You, How Will I Know, and Greatest Love of All became anthems, each one showcasing a voice that felt both angelic and invincible. Critics hailed her as the future of pop and soul. Audiences were mesmerized. Television appearances turned into events. Radio stations couldn't play her songs enough. She crossed boundaries effortlessly, R&B, pop, gospel, uniting genres with a grace only she possessed. Then came Whitney 1987, breaking record after record, making her the first female artist to debut at #1. With every note she hit, she redefined what was possible for female vocalists. The world wasn't just listening to Whitney Houston. They were witnessing the rise of an icon. By the late 80s, Whitney wasn't simply famous. She was a global phenomenon, a voice of hope, a symbol of excellence, and a once-in-a-generation talent ascending into the stratosphere. Behind every shining star is a human heart, one that loves, breaks, hopes, and hurts, just like anyone else. Whitney's personal life was a tangle of tenderness, loyalty, joy, and heartbreak. She was a woman who loved deeply and often carried the world's expectations on her shoulders. In 1992, she married R&B singer Bobby Brown. Their relationship was passionate, complicated, and constantly placed under a microscope. To the world, they were a glamorous power couple, behind closed doors. They were two imperfect people trying to navigate love amid fame's crushing weight. Their daughter, Bobby Christina, born that same year, became Whitney's greatest treasure, a bond so pure it softened her in ways only motherhood can. Despite the chaos swirling around her career, Whitney found peace in private moments with her child. She adored being a mother and often spoke of wanting a quieter, simpler life where she could raise her daughter away from the spotlight. Yet fame, once embraced, is not easily escaped. And Whitney, gentle at heart, often found herself pulled between who she was and who the world demanded her to be. But the pressures of global superstardom combined with the struggles within her marriage slowly fed into Whitney's greatest battles, her challenges and health issues. By the mid to late 1990s, whispers about her well-being began to spread. The intense touring schedules, relentless expectations, and emotional burdens began taking a toll. Whitney was a perfectionist. Every note, every performance had to be flawless. But perfection comes at a cost. As stress mounted, she began leaning on substances to cope, a private struggle that soon became painfully public. Interviews revealed glimpses of her exhaustion, and canceled performances fueled speculation. Yet despite the challenges, she remained fiercely resilient. She sought help multiple times, determined to regain control of her life, and in moments of clarity and strength, her voice, though strained, still carried that unmistakable spark. These years were a storm, turbulent, consuming, heartbreaking. But even in the darkest moments, Whitney never lost the core of who she was, a woman of faith, love, and immense sensitivity. She was fighting not only the world's expectations, but her own shadows, and still trying to preserve the beautiful, gentle soul within her. Even the brightest lights flicker, not because they lose their power, but because the world demands too much of their glow. Whitney's final years were a quiet blend of hope, healing, and heartache. After years of public turbulence, she longed for stability, emotionally, spiritually, and creatively. She reconnected with her gospel roots, returning again and again to the music that first gave her strength. Friends recalled that she was trying, truly trying, to rebuild her life. She spent more time with family, especially her beloved daughter Bobby Christina, and worked to mend broken pieces within herself. In 2009, Whitney staged a comeback with her album I Look to You, a project filled with vulnerability and resilience. The world welcomed her return with open arms, celebrating the echoes of the powerful voice they had missed. Though her vocals now carried the textures of her struggles, they were still unmistakably Whitney, raw, emotional, human. She also began acting again, filming Sparkle in 2011, hoping it would mark a new chapter. But behind the scenes, her mental and physical health continued to fluctuate, and some days were harder than others. Whitney was fighting to stay present, to stay strong, to stay herself. And despite the trials, she kept singing, kept working, kept loving, determined not to let her story end in despair. But on February 11, 2012, the world woke to devastating news. Whitney Houston had passed away. The cause of death shook millions. She was found unresponsive in the bathtub of her Beverly Hilton hotel room just hours before she was scheduled to attend a pre-Grammy party. The coroner later confirmed accidental drowning, with heart disease and the presence of substances listed as contributing factors. It was a heartbreaking conclusion to a life defined by extraordinary highs and painful lows. Fans around the globe wept, not just because a legend had died, but because Whitney meant something deeply personal to so many. Her voice had been the soundtrack to first loves, weddings, childhood memories, and moments of pure joy. Losing her felt like losing a piece of ourselves. Her passing became a reminder of the quiet battles even the most luminous souls fight. And it left the world asking, how could someone who brought so much light carry so much pain? Whitney's death was not just the end of a life, it was the shattering of an era, a silence where a voice once soared. Greatness may fade from the earth, but it never fades from the hearts of those it touched. Whitney Houston's legacy is something few artists in history have ever achieved. She wasn't just a singer, she was a cultural force, a blueprint, a voice that redefined what human sound could be. Her influence stretches across generations and genres. Artists like Mariah Carey, Beyoncé, Ariana Grande, Jennifer Hudson, and countless others credit Whitney as the voice that shaped their dreams. She created a new standard for vocal excellence, combining gospel power with pop clarity, delivering performances that remain unmatched to this day. Her rendition of the national anthem at the 1991 Super Bowl is still regarded as the greatest ever performed. The Bodyguard soundtrack became one of the best-selling albums of all time, with I Will Always Love You cementing itself as a global anthem of love and loss. Awards lined her life: Grammy Awards, Billboard Awards, American Music Awards. But more than the trophies, it was the emotional connection she formed with listeners that made her transcendent. Whitney didn't just sing songs, she transformed them into living, breathing experiences. Even now, long after her voice left the stage, new generations discover her music and feel the same awe people felt decades ago. Her artistry, her beauty, her humanity, they continue to ripple across time. And now, we close this tribute with a heart full of gratitude. A closing tribute to a woman whose light will never dim. Whitney Houston's life was not defined by her struggles, but by her brilliance. She gave the world a voice that could lift spirits, mend hearts, and make strangers feel connected through shared emotion. She showed us that vulnerability and power can coexist, that a person can be both extraordinary and achingly human. Though her journey was marked by triumphs and tragedies, what remains is the love she left behind. The songs that echo through weddings, celebrations, quiet nights, and moments when people need comfort the most. Whitney may have left the earth, but she never left us. Her music is still here. Her spirit is still here. Her influence is still here. So as we say goodbye, we do so not with sorrow alone, but with appreciation for her courage, for her gift, for her legacy. Whitney Houston was and forever will be the voice. And though she now sings among the angels, the world will always listen